and welcome to my 9th Collaborate to Zero interview, where I share stories with amazing business leaders from around the world and help everybody else try and get to a net zero world faster than we currently are. Today, I'm super excited about having Fiona Ball on the call. She is a total legend in the space and has been driving Sky and Sky's better business for many, many years. And we are very, very lucky to be having a call with her.
Hi, I'm here.
Thank you so much for your time and for joining. I gave everybody a brief intro on you and how super excited I am to be having this conversation. My first quick comment was, I was on a panel many years ago, and we were working through a challenge, and some of your colleagues were there, and we were trying to work out an answer, and they said, well, we know what Fiona would say. She would say, think of the fish. So let's make our decision based on that. And I went, oh my God, that is so cool. And it stuck with me forever. So I'm super chuffed to have this conversation with you, because clearly you have some magic and some stardust that you're sprinkling over your team that they think so wonderfully.
Thank you.
So, I mean, just to quickly, I've got hundreds of questions, and I know we don't have enough time. So jumping straight in, just to ask the first one, which is your spark to drive sustainability. What was it that got you kind of motivated and has given you the determination to keep going in what is quite a tough situation or a tough market?
So I think, I mean, I've been in sustainability a number of years now, too many that I would like to admit to, I must admit. And I think when I first started down the road of sustainability, I joined after doing kind of a bachelor's and a master's, and I went into kind of organisations when environmental sustainability was really considered to be kind of mandatory, kind of legal requirement of businesses, and that was okay at the time. But then I started to look at and started to work in media and entertainment, and that's when it really got quite exciting, because yes, it's really important for businesses to take on and look at what their role and their responsibility is and what they need to do to reduce the emissions. But what's really exciting about the media and entertainment business is their understanding that they've got that they've got a platform, they're a broadcaster, and they have a massive ability to really bring to life through storytelling what the impact that's happening to the world, and what businesses and also individuals can do to make a difference. And that to me has been the passion and drive all the way through. I mean, I've been working at Sky now for 15 years, and it has been a roller coaster of a ride. We've had so many initiatives going all the way back from when we first became carbon neutral back in 2006. Then we launched Sky Rainforest Rescue, looking at rainforest protection, which was an issue that at that point in time everybody thought the rainforests were okay. I mean, unbelievably, and we did a big partnership with WWF for 6 years, really highlighting that every single choice that a consumer makes has an impact on the rainforest. And it might seem a long way away, but they're really important in terms of the materials that come out of there, the biodiversity, but also the medicines that we have, and just how important it is for everybody to take a kind of a role in that. And then there's been no kind of I would say slow moments in my career, especially working at Sky. We then went from Sky Rainforest Rescue to Sky Ocean Rescue, really exciting being able to work with Sky News, really driving the awareness and the understanding of ocean health, and particularly single-use plastic use in the UK, to such a level that we've seen loads of policy changes now made, across the UK, including, many different single-use plastics being banned from use, and loads of companies now making commitments around the use of recycled materials, or ensuring that their bottles or whatever it is are recycled at the end of use. And now we've got the challenge of climate, and it's always been always has been a challenge. But now for businesses, it's really looking at not only their direct business impact, which many companies have been doing for a while, but looking at the whole value chain, you know, the impact of the business through all the suppliers that they use, through the use of the products that we sell and that, you know, customers use in their homes. And so now we've launched Sky Zero, which runs alongside Sky Ocean Rescue. You know, they're both intrinsically linked, and making sure that every business, but everybody in the public can see the impact that climate change is happening, and it's happening closer to home now. And I think everybody is coming around to the realization that we haven't got long to turn this around. Yeah, using our channels and our voice across not just Sky News now, our Sky Sports teams and our Sky Kids teams are all looking at content to really engage different people through their passion points. And it's been an amazing ride, and yeah, it's been brilliant fun at the same time.
But you talked about two things there. You talked about at the board level and at the supplier level, and they are miles apart. In all the conversations I have, the number of times people say, "Oh, the board will never accept us. The board will never accept us, and it'll cost more, and therefore we can't do this." How on earth? And you've been through, you know, sales and acquisitions and new owners and all this kind of stuff. So how have you managed to get the board on side, get them to buy the story, and to transition that message across, you know, your new owners?
So it's from the board perspective, it's really giving the board an indication of what our overall footprint is now and where that sits and where that lies. You know, when you look at Sky and its overall impact across its value chain, the biggest impact by far is in the supply chain and the use of our products and customer homes, and that's that's an important part of our footprint we need to take into account. And in comparison, our direct business, so all of our offices, all of our travel, all of our engineers, equate to just 4%. You know, so a massive part is in the use of our products. Now, you know, and when we look at the journey that the world needs to go on in terms of commitments by countries and businesses, you know, to stay below 1.5 degree warming, which is not far off from where we are. You know, we're moving pretty rapidly towards, unfortunately, that situation, which is where all the scientists agree we're going to have, you know, huge changes in our climate. And, you know, for every one of us that has kind of families and young children, you know, we want them to have the same kind of, you know, opportunities and world that we live in, you know, and I can't personally see that, you know, happening unless every business and every country kind of really understands what its involvement is. And I think, you know, everybody in a board, you know, they're individuals themselves. They all have families and they all understand that. So it's just really clearly articulating what the challenge is for the business, you know, what our footprint is over the next 10 years, how the business is growing, because the business is obviously wanting to grow. But in reality, what we need to do in terms of halving our footprint, because every single business needs to halve its footprint in the next 10 years to stay below 1.5 degrees. I mean, the science is really clear. There's easy methodologies for businesses to follow to do that. And then it's just really understanding and laying it out. Well, what is the investment, therefore, that's needed to make those efficiencies and those changes in the business over the next 10 years? And yes, they're big figures, but they're not stupid figures. You know, a lot of it is around, you know, understanding that and building it within the DNA and the business, and working very differently. It's innovating. You know, we set ourselves a challenge as part of Sky Ocean Rescue to be single-use plastic free in our business and our supply chain and our products, you know, back in 2017, and we've achieved that. And we didn't know how we were going to achieve that either when we set that commitment. You know, it felt really impossible. But actually, when you set yourself such a massive target, it allows the business to really innovate and think very differently to how it's been doing business now. And that's where you'll start getting innovations in design and technology and materials uses, which you'll find. So yes, it was a detailed conversation with the board, but one that they understood what the severity was and what the impact of the business would be if you did nothing. I mean, in reality's terms, it's going to cost the business an awful lot more in 10 years' time if we didn't look at how we could reduce our emissions now and set targets. And our new owners, Comcast, are also now looking at this. They've done their scope 1 and 2, which for an organisation we're 5% of their business, so they're massive. It's a huge piece of work that they've done, and they've now set their target to be carbon neutral by 2035, which is great for scope 1 and 2. And we're now working with them on their scope 3. So they're moving very, very quickly. And it's great to be able to share with them our journey. But, to see such an international company that's got such a large footprint and influence with their suppliers as well, take this on board, I think is brilliant.
I mean, they've got 190,000 employees, and you've got 11,000 suppliers with 34,000 employees. So I'd shudder to think how many suppliers they've got. But I mean, the vision of the board from your side they're just years ahead of everybody else, and it's incredible that they've seen that and they've committed to it and have gone, we're going to do this. And then reading your kind of, I call it the supply chain charter, where you kind of break down how suppliers can think through their challenges, and I think that is super critical, and those things need to be shared, and I'm going to share that certainly after, so all suppliers can see. But have you had any pushback from suppliers that have gone, this is just too difficult and they don't want to play, or has everybody going, absolutely, we're up for this, we're accepting the challenge?
No, I think most suppliers are up for the challenge. I think it depends on the size of the supplier, of where they are on their journey and the kind of support that they need. But I think, like we did with our plastics challenge of removing plastics from our business, we're really open, to sharing our journey and, sharing as much information with all of our suppliers as that we can to get them on board. We need our suppliers on board in order for us to meet our targets. They're 33% of our overall footprint. So we need to work with suppliers, and the majority of them, are very willing to be, part of that process. So we've just literally launched our impact report, which we do each year, looking at, what we do across our business and our performance, and how we do that. And as part of that, we've actually published our methodology for measuring our scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions, and being as transparent as possible, because we know that every business, however large or small, needs to get on this journey, and we want to share exactly how we've done it, so that people don't have to waste time going through that process.
Yeah, I mean, scope 1 and 2 is not that it's easy, but it's something that even a little SME can get their head around. The scope 3 piece is where this becomes really complicated.
Yeah,
and people start to panic, and I think we need to encourage them that actually, even if we start and even if we try and just try and understand what the scope 3 looks like, and get your suppliers to come on the journey, so everybody's moving in the same direction. I mean, we talked a little bit about in my journey in trying to drive a more sustainable business, there's been unbelievable pushback from kind of all sectors. Have you got examples of where you've seen kind of pushback and you've worked around it, or is there a simple way of getting people on side and getting on the journey?
I think sectors coming together in the supply chain is one way to work around it. I mean, the work that we've been doing, for example, with Albert, so with BAFTA, around really encouraging all the media and entertainment companies to come together to kind of work together and to share our experiences, has been a really good way of getting the whole of the sector and the whole of the businesses up to speed and moving in the same direction and sharing that. I think it was, we launched Albert with BAFTA 9 years ago, and we've always had the same players. That was BBC, ITV, Channel 4 and ourselves, meeting on a regular basis, working with our production companies, because we all share kind of our production companies as well that we work with, looking at how we can move that sector forward. But that completely missed a huge other part of media and entertainment, which is the streamers, which is the Netflix, the Googles, Apple, but now they're also coming to the party, and they've now joined kind of BAFTA and Albert on that journey. Have now made, you know, a lot of them have made their own kind of climate kind of strategies and targets as well as around that. So I think that the biggest thing is to get more and more businesses and sectors on board is collaboration, is finding a way through an intermediary, you know, whether it's kind of BAFTA or whether it's another organization, you know, to kind of bring people together to share their kind of journeys and stuff. So you take the competition element away from it.
That's really cool. So find an intermediary which makes it less competitive, and collaborate.
Yeah.
Okay. Intermediaries is a top tip. Yeah, because I mean Netflix gets a bad rap about you know, how much power it uses and its carbon output, and you guys have been carbon zero were carbon neutral in your production side since 2006, which is way back. From my side, I think it's all about telling stories, and I think it's about using the platform, and then you guys do that incredibly well. And I think if that's the cost of a way of being able to tell the story, it's super vital. So bringing the streamers on side is incredible. The edit, I think, is amazing. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the edit is so this is the work that we do with young people to kind of inspire young people around not just climate change, around diversity and inclusion, all sorts of different topics that are really important to us as kind of as the public. So the edit is we've got some Sky Academy studios at our offices in both London and Scotland, where we have 60 young people come into our studio environment in a purpose-built young people studio where they can research, they can edit, they can produce, they can present a news article effectively around an issue that they're looking at in school that kind of is linked to the national curriculum, but also some really key and important topics. And that can, you know, be based from climate change, biodiversity, cyberbullying, any kind of issue that's that they're looking at. And they can produce that piece of content, they research it, they work as a team, so they build really important life skills and tech skills in a kind of digital world, and they produce that piece of content and they take it home. During COVID, obviously, we've had no young people visiting our studios, which is really unfortunate. So we really wanted to look at a way that we could, you know, continue doing that, but doing it remotely. So we've done a partnership with Adobe, where we have the edit, which is effectively an online version of our studios, where we provide them with the tools to research and produce their own video content and send that in as part of a competition. And that was the edit was all around climate change. So we had loads of entries from schools and school children around climate change, what it meant to them, what they were doing, what they would like to see change in the world, and yeah, run a competition. Our next one is around diversity, inclusion and race, which is also an important topic.
Amazing. And it's open source, anybody can see the output, or is it
Yes, no, it's completely open sourced, and any school can join in as well. Yeah.
That is fantastic. So obviously November's big. You guys are playing a leading role, which I'm super excited about. Two questions, I suppose. One is, what do you hope will come out of COP? And as a person who isn't going to be there, what content do you think we'll be able to watch?
So, obviously the Conference of the Parties, which is called COP26, is a really important conference leading on from kind of the last, the last few, but particularly big moments in time in Paris. Businesses have started to be included within the conference, for the last kind of 5 years, which I think is really important. I mean, the key things really are that we get some big commitments made by all of the countries that are attending and delegations, so that everybody internationally is working towards, targets around how individual countries are going to stay below 1.5 degrees. That's the number one kind of priority that we need to have. I think what will be really interesting to see at COP is that there's going to be a lot of businesses there as well, also showing governments that they have their support and their commitment to do this. You know, this is something that's very important for businesses to do, and lots of businesses in the run up to it are signing up to the Race to Zero. So basically, which is a UN kind of commitment for individuals to be able to showcase that they've got their targets. They're all science-based. They're committed to also being net zero carbon, whether that's by 2050, 2040, or like ourselves, 2030. I think we'll be there, definitely. You know, Sky News will be there. We've got lots of activity, but there's going to be, if people are going up to Glasgow, there's something called the Blue Zone, where all of the delegates are there and all the negotiations are happening at really high level. There's also a green zone, which is available for the public to come in and see, where a lot of businesses will be there, you know, putting on talks, showing their content, and showing what they're kind of doing. There's going to be lots of different fringe events happening around Glasgow that people can go along and attend, whether that's in the IMAX cinemas or whether, you know, at other locations across Glasgow. We're definitely going to be there, and we're going to be capturing as much of that content as possible for our channels, so that, you know, if people can't attend in person, because obviously there'll be kind of some restrictions there, you know, people will be able to see what happens in the negotiations, but also what happens on the kind of fringe events as well. Excitingly, though, I think there's going to be an awful lot of things that are happening in the run up to COP. So, you know, we've just had a whole summer of sustainability for sport, you know, working with our kind of partners around, all of our sporting partners, whether that's cricket, you know, whether that's the F1, whether it's football, really looking at ways that we can talk to as many different people as possible through their passion points. And we know that, you know, climate change isn't everybody's passion. It's been my passion for many, many years. But, you know, at Sky, we're really dedicated to speaking to as many people as possible about this issue in things that they're already interested in, so that whether that's through sport, whether that's through the kids, whether it's through entertainment. So there'll be lots of activity, particularly in September, in the run up to COP. And then afterwards, I think there will be a lot of kind of talk about, well, what the outcomes are and what does that mean to business, and what does it mean to individuals as well. But don't worry, we're there, and I can't tell you a huge amount about what we'll be doing, because obviously we're working very much on it, and we want it to be a massive kind of interest and surprise for people. But we will be there, and a lot of content will be shared.
I'm so chuffed, because you know, trying to get to COP as a business was incredibly hard, and 99% of the people who applied for the green zone, blue zone got knocked back. So the fact that you guys are aware that there are going to be fringe events, and you're going to be trying to showcase some of the passionate people that are going to be there, even though we're not in the zone, we're going to be around and about. That is absolutely fantastic. We're running out of time, so I've got a few more questions. Magic wand. If you had a magic wand, what would you do in the media world?
Okay, so I think if I had a magic wand, and I think it's starting to happen now, I would like to see all brands and the media really coming together to really help the public and consumers understand what they can do to, you know, to do their part on climate change. And I think, you know, we've started to do this. So through our Sky Media, which is our advertising arm of Sky, we just launched earlier in the year the Footprint Fund, which is basically linking all businesses up with the opportunity to win a lot of advertising space in actually around COP, for brands that have got products that can support consumers and the public in easily making changes to their own footprint and at home. And I think the more that brands can look outside to communicate that, and to look at ways that they can support the public, you know, through their products and services that they buy, I think the better. And I think that's the magic wand. It's getting more and more, you know, brands really communicating as part of their sale and as part of their products, exactly how they can support their you know, their customers effectively reduce their own footprint through the products that they buy. I think there's some great brands that are doing this already, and there's some really exciting new small brands that are coming out as well, you know, doing it. So you've got IKEA, who have been doing it a long time. There's been a lot of kind of brands like Purcell, who, you know, have got some really strong kind of things that they can support the public on. But there's loads of new brands like Olio, you know, which is a really great app, you know, around sharing kind of food waste and stuff, you know, that are coming out, which I think will be great. But I think it's just brands being really brave around just telling the public and explaining their journey, and explaining how they can help their customers.
That is sensational. I mean, it's all. I mean, the big disruptors are going to be the small guys, because they're, you know, they're the guys that aren't scared to get hurt as they move forward, and getting there quickly costs money. So for you guys to give them some airtime, you know, that's just gold dust for them, and absolutely brilliant. And books, podcasts, things that you can recommend for the uninitiated or the people that are trying to get on this journey quickly?
Yeah, so I'm quite a light reader, I would say. I mean, I do in my day-to-day life. You know, IPPC reports and stuff are quite detailed, and, you know, take a lot of sort of thing to go through. So when I do actually read for pleasure, I do read things that also make me laugh and have you know, and stuff. So I would say the two books for people if they want to get on this journey: How Bad Are Bananas? The Carbon Footprint of Everything, which is something by Mike Berners-Lee. I think it's really great. I think it's a really fun, easy read, and it tells people really very clearly, you know, the carbon footprint of everything that we buy and consume. And I think it's just a brilliant read. The other one is The Happy Hero by Solitaire, Townsend. And both these people I work with on a kind of a day-to-day basis anyway. But I think The Happy Hero is just, it's really great. I mean, it's really looking at the kind of positive solutions that everybody can take, and, you know, how you can feel much happier by being, you know, doing some good in the world, you know, whatever that might be. And I think they're two really good books that I would recommend people read.
That is brilliant. I haven't read either, so I obviously I've heard of Mike and the work that he's done, but How Bad Are Bananas? I will be downloading that immediately. That is superb. Fiona, I am the biggest fan of Sky. I'm the biggest fan of how you guys are just leading at a board level all the way down to the suppliers. And I keep asking, has anybody written is Harvard writing a business case? Because you guys kind of are the exemplars of big business, taking it seriously and driving in a direction, and people following you. So I'm super delighted you've made the time, and thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. It's been great chatting.
Super. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.